Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mindfully Aligned. I'm your host, Adanze Benjamin, and thank you for joining me today. As I mentioned in the last episode, I just graduated this past weekend. It has been an absolute whirlwind of a weekend, filled with so many emotions, so much family and friends and love. It has, of course, got me reflecting on so many things, and that is what today's episode is going to be all about. Today is the graduation episode, the big one. So yeah, I just want to talk about my biggest takeaways from graduation, just the emotions that come with it, the thought process that you have as you're going along these ceremonies and being celebrated and accepting all this love and recognition. It's a crazy feeling. And then also the 4 things that I have learned over these past 4 years, my biggest takeaways just from college in general. So yeah, this is going to be a very reflective episode. It's going to be nice to close this chapter. And so I'm really glad I have this podcast so that it's like a nice audio diary. So I can really punctuate the end of this chapter with this episode. So yeah. Strap in and let's go. So, as I mentioned, graduation was a huge weekend. I was absolutely exhausted after. I had no idea that I would be that tired, but it was awesome. It really was. I had so much family come out and celebrate, aunts, uncles, little baby cousins, And so it was so nice to see so many family members who took a 5-hour drive or hopped on a flight to celebrate me and make me feel loved. It was really an amazing feeling. And as I stepped back, I had to really think that, or just acknowledge how grateful I am to receive this kind of love and support. It really makes all the hard work worth it when you know that you really have people in your corner who are just excited and eager to celebrate all you've accomplished. And so I know that that is a very fortunate thing that I have, and I just want to express my gratitude for that. It also reminds me that your accomplishments are worthy of sharing and cheering on. And, all the pomp and circumstance of the weekend really reminded me that we have to take a step back and give ourselves a moment to pat ourselves on the back before we keep going on to the next chapter. I feel like for me, I am somebody who's always ready to just move on to the next thing. But, I have to make an effort to prioritize processing and feeling emotions and also acknowledging all I did in the previous chapter. And so with all this family around me, it kind of emphasizes how big of a deal graduating college is. And it makes me really think, you know what? Yeah, this is a big deal. Yeah, I really did that. They wouldn't be coming out if this wasn't a big deal. So I had to kind of take a second or take some time the morning of my first ceremony and really just think. I had like a moment in the shower where I was really reflecting on these past 4 years, all the times where I felt like it was just too much, or I was down on myself, or, just all the hard times. You can picture it when you feel like you're slammed with work and you're absolutely drowning, the hills and the valleys. I was thinking about it all, and it has all came up to this moment where I have been able to just kind of take a deep breath and know that I did it and know that it's all off of my shoulders. It really is an amazing feeling, and it's kind of crazy to get here because when you're in the trenches, you are just thinking about this moment to encourage yourself. You're thinking about finally being done and getting to wear all your stoles and taking all your photos of graduation. I know for me, that's what I would think of to encourage myself to keep pushing forward. And so to finally meet this moment that I have been thinking about for 4 years, it was really such a crazy feeling and filled me with so much pride and joy. And I'm really proud of myself, and I'm really proud of everyone who graduated with me. So hats off to us. I am so excited for everything that this next chapter has for us. And it really was just a beautiful weekend. So yeah, as I have taken this time to reflect on this past 4 years and everything I've both accomplished and overcame, I wanted to culminate all those moments and all those lessons into 4 main takeaways from my time at school. So the first lesson I have learned going through school is the value of time. Time is money. You hear that all the time, but it might have more value than that. When you learn how to value your time and prioritize your time, you unlock a whole new level of power. Time is super important. You can't invest your time into things that don't give back to you. You only really have so many hours in the day, so you really need to think about what you are giving your time to. So even moving away from the academic example, if you are spending time with friends who are not really for you, or you're spending time going on dates with people who are not good candidates for you for a relationship, it might seem like, yeah, whatever, it's just one night out on a weekend, it's just one day during the week that I wasn't going to do anything anyway. That is time that you could have been doing something else. And incrementally, that stuff really adds up. So you really want to pay attention to what you are lending your time to, because that time is going to pass by anyway. The question is, what are you doing with it? So if every weekend you are filling your time with relationships that aren't balanced or healthy for you, that's time and energy being taken away from something that could be better for you. You could be spending that time with cultivating stronger relationships with people who are better for you, or you could be spending that time on that Saturday night working on that skill you've been always wanting to take a try at, or working on that project you've been putting off. Little things like that. It might not be a big deal if you do it this one time, but I know for me, one of my fears was waking up one day and wondering where the time went. Waking up one day and wondering, well, why didn't I do this whole time? Where did the time go? The time was there all along. What were you doing with it is what I like to ask myself. So it's really important to keep that in mind, because we really only have one life and you are really only young once. So what do you want to do with that? What kind of balance do you want to have? The time is also going to pass anyway. So now is the time to start that thing. If you want to achieve certain physical results and you put off employing those habits that'll get you those results for a whole year, that year is going to pass and find you in the same spot. But instead, if you made little changes each week or each month throughout that year, you would be a completely different person and you would be so much closer to where you want it to be. Again, that time is going to pass anyway. So pay attention to how you're using it. The same goes for attention as well. The things you pay attention to, it's like currency. Your time and your attention is literally currency. You only have so much of it. The things you give it to, you better make it worth it. You have to make it worth your time. You have to make it worth your attention. If it's getting you nowhere, it's time to reevaluate. And I say these in a lot of episodes, but that's because it really is one of my biggest takeaways from my time at school. Things that you might think are important really may not be that important. Do you want to give your time to that thing? Or do you want to look back 5 years from now and be happy you made those decisions and prioritized the way you should prioritize? Another thing I've learned throughout this time is that someone has been there before, or someone has been here before. When I'm struggling and really in the trenches and on my grind, I just think that someone has been here before. When things feel hard, it's important to remember that someone out there, a lot of times it's someone has gone through the same things as you, if not worse, and they persevered. And, it could be a family member or a friend or someone who's slightly older than you, or a mentor, or just someone in your dream field who's doing what you want to do. I always remember, they also did this. And, it's good to channel their strength as you move forward. For me, I thought about my parents who were immigrants, first generation college students who put themselves through school, worked full-time jobs and did school at night. They didn't have time to do Greek life or any extracurriculars or have fun on the weekends. It was literally work your 9 to 5, and then after that, go to class, study, do your homework, maybe you'll get sleep. And they did that so that I could have a better life. And when I was on my grind of all taking my 20 credits and working and doing all of that, and I felt like I was also booked down to the minute, I tried to channel their strength and their resilience during my process. And I thought, you know what? If they could do it, I sure as hell can do it. They did it, and it got them to where they are. I know I can do it, and I want to make them proud. And so, it's important to think about things like that because it really changes your perspective. When we are in the trenches, again, it's easy to get lost in all that we're doing and just constantly think about how hard it is and, oh my God, this sucks. I hate this. I can't wait for this to be over. But you can really find strength in looking at others who have also persevered. How did she do it? How did he do it? How did they do it? They just kept going. And I find that to be really inspiring. And so that's something that helped me through, especially my junior year, is knowing that there is someone out there who has been through this before. The next lesson goes hand in hand with what I just said pretty much, but it's being willing to learn from others and having a mentor. Having a mentor is super important because it's someone you can not only look at and admire, but also bounce ideas off of, draw direct inspiration from, and receive guidance from. It's really hard to navigate certain things all by yourself. You haven't done this before. That's why you're doing it. And so it's really good to have a mentor, someone in your corner who has experience and can give you their years of expertise and all their knowledge so that you can jump through hoops even easier and faster than they did. There is so much wealth in the years of knowledge that they have. You can now probably achieve something that they did in 10 years even faster because you are hearing the cheat codes. And so I really compel everyone listening to this to find somebody who you admire. It doesn't need to be 100%. They are everything that you want to be. There just needs to be something about them that inspires you. And pick their brain, receive their guidance, bounce ideas off of them when you need to, because again, there is so much wealth in all that they know and all the experience they have. And if you find someone who's willing to pour into you, do not turn that down. Do not squander that because it is super, super valuable. I know for me, once I went on co-op and met my mentor on the job, I instantly was learning so much more than I could have in years of being in the classroom. That is really so amazing. It's literally priceless. You can't turn that down, so it's really important to actively look for that. Network when you have to, because there are people out there who are successful and really want to pay it forward to the next generation, which is us. So take initiative when it comes to finding people like that out there, whether it's at work or the guest speaker that was just in your classroom or what have you, just somebody out there who really interests you. Latch onto them, learn from them. It's just super incredibly valuable. And the final lesson is that it's okay to be alone. This one I think is a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people our age, and that's okay. I just want to let everyone know that sometimes the path that you are destined to be on requires you to be alone. The more you put off that phase of your life, the more you put off receiving what you're meant to receive. Sometimes achieving your goals means moving to another city to do it. You can't shy away from that. Sometimes it's what you're called to do. Sometimes it means moving back home where your friends are not around. And if that's what you're called to do, you have to do it sometimes. Sometimes that means you are surrounded by friends, but you have to kind of retreat and reduce the social life because it's time for you to focus up on certain things for a season. Maybe you have a certain goal that you're working towards that requires you to tone things down a bit and self-isolate and really hone in on what you need to hone in on. And that's okay, and sometimes too, there are people in our lives that are there for a season and God removes them because they are not meant to be there anymore. And so sometimes, I talked about this on the episode with Chike. Sometimes when you go through a transitional phase, the social life gets quiet. But you are also meant to go through that. That means God is recalibrating things in your life. That means something is working and you may not see it yet, but that's okay because you just need to trust the process. And so if you're listening to this, you either have gone through that, or if you haven't, you will. You might go through this a few times in life. But the thing is, we have to learn how to accept that and find the beauty in it. It seems like it sucks, but it's really because you are in a phase of self-growth, rapid, exponential self-growth. And you can't really do that in the environment that you once were in. And so you are now removed from that environment so that you can grow. Don't cheat yourself out of that growth. Don't shy away from it because you're uncomfortable. We have to be uncomfortable sometimes, and we just have to learn to adjust, adapt, and learn to be comfortable with those seasons that are quieter. I know that once I move home and I'm working, it's going to be a quieter season. I'm not going to be meeting up with my friends every weekend and going out the same way. But that's because I'm in a different phase of life. And so that means it's time to turn my attention onto other things. My new goals for post-grad life. That gives me the chance to focus on the new goals that I have and really get exponential growth towards those things. And when I look back on that time in 5 years, I'm going to be so proud of myself because I wasn't running from the new environment. I wasn't running to make things be how they used to feel. Like, instead, I'm going to be happy that I buckled down and settled into that new season and let the exponential growth take place. We are meant to experience it sometimes, and the more you delay it and put it off and run from it, the more you are delaying and putting off the greatness you're meant to achieve and the growth you are meant to achieve. And so it's important that we find beauty in the loneliness and the transitions because it's all for a purpose. And that does go back to the reframing of negative thoughts episode where I shared that, everything does have a purpose. If you are going through a phase where things are quieter and it feels weird, you're meant to experience that. And you may not get it right now, but in 5 years, you definitely will. There are going to be things that you learned in this phase that you are going to be so glad you learned. And it's going to help you achieve XYZ. And if you didn't go through that phase, you may not have been able to do it. And so you'll look back on that time and just be thankful and grateful. And so that, I think, is a major lesson. I think it might be one of the hardest ones to learn, but it has certainly gotten me through a lot. And, these 4 lessons in general, when I think about the mentality I cultivated over these 4 years, these 4 lessons really do come to mind. And all of these lessons, prioritizing your time, being able to look up to others to motivate yourself, acquiring a mentor, and learning how to be alone, all of these things give you the grit that it takes to shine. They always say diamonds can't be made without pressure. So these things are kind of like tough lessons that once you master, you are able to really shine. For me, once I was able to master these lessons, doing what I wanted to do and getting after the stuff I wanted to get after became effortless. And I want that for all of you. If you're listening to this, I know you're the type to want better for yourself 100% of the time. And so I would be remiss to close out this college experience without giving the 4 lessons. So yeah, I hope that these really resonated. You know, I'm just getting so many flashbacks to times where I had to say no to certain things and prioritize my time, or a season of life where I was alone, like when I spent my summers away from campus because I was away at co-op. But was I lonely sometimes? Yeah, but I also was working towards my dreams, and it helped me out so much being able to do that. So being unafraid to do those things or seek out people who are going to help you in the long run, those things can really help you go the extra mile in achieving your dreams faster and becoming that person that you really want to become. And yeah, to anybody who is still in school, I hope these lessons resonated. And just remember throughout these 4 years or however much time you have left, just remember what's important and why you came here and what you want your life to look like after this. And finally, what you can do now to achieve that. You know, these are vital years. These are amazing years. You know, they should be something you look back on fondly and proudly. Really seize this time. Know that this time is valuable and value it highly. Value it like currency, and don't take advantage of the time you have left. I'm really happy that because I didn't take advantage of that time, I'm able to look back on it and feel like, you know what, this chapter is closed. I don't really feel particularly sad about it because I'm happy. I did everything I wanted to do. I made the best memories with my friends. I achieved the things I wanted to achieve. I worked hard, I played hard, and I can graduate without regrets. And I want the same for you. It's crazy to close this chapter, but I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of everyone else who graduated alongside me. And yeah, wow, this is crazy. This is crazy really thinking about this. But before we close out the episode, I'm going to get into the song of the week. So the song of the week this week is My Way by Frank Sinatra. I mentioned earlier this week that I had a big moment of reflection in the shower the morning of my first graduation commencement ceremony, and I was belting my butt off to this song. This is another song on my manifestation playlist, another song I would really run to a lot when I was having one of my reflective runs. We all know this song, but really listen to it. And if you've graduated this season, or you're about to graduate, or you're just hustling right now, really listen to this song and feel it in your bones, because I did over these past 4 years when I need to take a moment and pat myself on the back and think, you know what, I really did that. I really did that. And I just think about all the moments that I put in the work to be able to say that I did that. So, you know, give yourself a moment this week to pat yourself on the back for whatever you've accomplished, whatever you've done, and listen to this song and think about the lessons you've learned from it. And yeah, that concludes this episode this week. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for reflecting on these last 4 years with me. I hope that you can resonate with the takeaways I shared this episode. And if it impacted you, let me know. Reach out to me on socials. Follow the Mindfully Aligned Instagram. Interact with me on there as well. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't. Leave a nice rating. It helps a lot. And I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.